And welcome back to the post show, episode 19. This week we start with the recent Captain America 4 movie announcement and what that whole thing is going to look like before we get into What If, episode 2. Then we briefly talk about Star Wars Visions, since a new trailer dropped for that. Then we get back into Sonny Boy before we break down Tokyo Revengers episode 20 and To Your Eternity episode 19. I give a quick review of Moneyball, since that's the movie I watched last week, and Grant talks about Haikyuu. Thank you guys so much for listening. Enjoy.
Hey, Dave.
Oh, hey, Grant.
How's it going?
Pretty swell. How are you?
Good. It's post show.
It's the post show. We just wrapped up My Hero Academia season 5, episode 20.
I feel different going into the post show. It's been a long while since I've been this positive going into the post show.
Yeah, you're usually like, all right, now we can get down to it now that we got My Hero out of the way. And for anybody listening who thinks we're too negative, I mean, I think generally speaking, like, the feeling in the fandom right now is just that, like, it's been a weird season. It hasn't been a particularly strong season. We're not being, like, intentionally overly critical. I think, like, the entire fan base is like, what's going on?
Softballs at best.
Yeah. It's and it's funny because when Grant and I were talking about like what shows to cover, and like we'll cover more in the future. You know, we started this with Attack on Titan, which was like a complete blast.
Yep.
And My Hero Academia, while a very different show, was just like such a slam dunk because it's so reliably pleasing.
Yep.
And then it hasn't been, so that was the surprise.
I know it's.
But this final arc they're getting into seems like it's going to be a lot of fun, so we're excited for that. Mm-hmm. I want to talk about something you sent me, and it's not anime to start us off. It's MCU related. Captain America 4.
Yeah.
So, for those of you who may or may not have caught previous post shows, we did watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So, like, just generally speaking, assume there's going to be, you know, spoilers for that whole series and spoilers for the MCU as it has been released to date in this conversation. What do you think about the fact that they're doing a fourth movie? What is your general, like, headspace at? Where is that at?
Well, it's like you know, you and I were messaging back and forth, you know, when the announcement came out, and I'll say it again, like, Captain America needs a big budget, and it needs a big screen, like, plain and simple. Like, you know, we had our thoughts, we had our opinions, we've been over that bridge like probably 10 times now with Falcon and Winter Soldier. You know, it wasn't flat out bad, but I don't think the tone was correct for Captain America. The argument can be made that 5 episodes he wasn't Captain America, so you know, now the role is there to like get back into a movie, and I think Anthony Mackie is tremendous. You know,
very capable actor.
Very capable, one of the most underused players in all of the MCU, legitimately. And same goes for Sebastian Stan, more so used, I think.
Yeah.
But but anyway, I'm ready for more Cap. I think the money that they're throwing, like, every round, like every phase of Marvel movies, I think this thing is going to be big. There's no way I think they're going to blow this one out of the water. I'm excited.
That's awesome.
Of the ones that are like announced and like years away, this is the one I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, I have to imagine this one's going to be, well, you never know. Like, we've seen them like turn up the heat and crank movies out when they have to. Mm-hmm. But the fact that they only just got the deal done makes me think that this is like a couple years away.
Sure.
And they've like announced their, they did that like investor thing, right? Where they announce every movie for the next like little while. And this was nowhere to be seen in that timeline. Now, that doesn't mean that they can't smash it in the middle of a timeline.
For sure.
But it, I think they had movies scheduled out to 2023 and this wasn't announced. So, we'll have to see when that actually rolls around. I'm just super curious about, I think, 2 things. Primarily is that I did not love Captain America, the First Avenger. I know that's a lot of people did.
Yeah.
But I really thought when Stephen and Marcus McFeely started writing the movies, they did Winter Soldier and they did Civil War, and then they wrote the last 2 Avengers films. and their directorial partners that they did that with were the Russo brothers. So that like foursome really nailed Cap, and then obviously made like the highest grossing film of all time with Endgame. So I think that foursome, like creatively speaking, is really, really powerful, and it's probably not fair to do a direct comparison between the last two Cap movies and whatever they do for Cap 4, because I highly doubt they'll get that combination. I don't think the Russo brothers are going to come back to do another Cap film.
I hope they have the same grace when it comes to those movies as it does. Like nothing would be shittier if Anthony Mackie's Captain America just gets the shit end of the stick, like it's just but I think the property is too precious isn't even the right word, but they would have to like they're such stoic movies, they would have to like give it its full effort, like they couldn't goof it up, or like they couldn't try and make it like over funny and like I think the overall tones are probably going to stay the same, because narrative wise like Steve Rogers and I'm blanking on the character's name. Like Falcon.
Falcon, yeah.
What's Falcon's name?
Sam
Wilson?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it Sam Wilson?
I have no idea.
Anyways, so they're very like in simpatico, like when it comes to mentality wise. So I think if they kind of just approach it the same way they did the others, I think we're gonna get they're gonna knock it out of the park. Like, it's fucking Captain America, man. Like I would be shocked. I would be shocked if they didn't come at this the same way.
Yeah, I think I'm nervous because I love those last two Cap movies. They were like the highlight of the MCU for me, particularly Civil War. I think like that's just like when my personal Marvel fandom was peaking.
Sure.
And then like Endgame came at a very good time for me. I think I was pretty like marveled out. And it was like a really high note to leave things on. And then since then it's been like like some of these shows haven't panned out, like haven't like completely knocked our socks off, and then like Falcon Winter Soldier was kind of lukewarm, so I've just been a little bit hesitant. I just really hope that they do it, like you said, they do it justice. They have to, because the character is so important, and also because Anthony Mackie deserves like a really fair shake. So I hope it goes well. I hope they don't like it's not like the shadow of those movies, and they, what I mean? Because it's, you go back to the well on anything. We've talked about this enough, right? Like, it's not like they're bringing Steve Rogers back for another movie or anything like that. Like 10 years after his retirement, like but this isn't that long removed from Steve Rogers being Captain America. You know what I mean? Audiences are going to be fully aware of all the history, and I'm sure that's going to play into the narrative. I just hope that they, that they don't miss, I guess.
Just needs a little bit of budget. I think we'll be okay.
I hope so too. Yeah. So yeah, that was the big one for Cap 4 that I want to talk about. But also, do you think they use Sebastian Stan? Do you think they try and share the load of, because let's just like call it like it is. Like Chris Evans was a 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Perfect dream cast for Captain America. And I'm
thinking no.
They don't use Sebastian Stan?
I think it's fleeting. I think you and I think in the same conversation we talked about this. I think he needs to shine somewhere else. I think now that like Sam, Anthony Mackie is Captain America, I think the movie needs to be Captain America.
And not like the buddy cop show.
I don't think, I think that's what Falcon and Winter Soldier was. I think they kind of had some resolution by the end of that. And I think Anthony Mackie needs the time to shine. Like I said, like, the character, like, like Sebastian Stan might be in the movie, but I don't think he's going to be like the main
riding
component.
Shotgun.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be that. I think, and I think we had said this too, I would love to see him in the next Black Panther movie. I think he needs to be grounded. He's not, because that's the thing, the coming movies are very celestial and psychological, and it's not very grounded. He needs to be grounded, and I think I wouldn't be surprised if he showed up in Black Panther 2 or something along those lines. Like, honestly, even having him in Spider-Man would be awesome. Like just But even that is associated to all this other cosmic stuff that's going on, so it's It's hard to say, but when it comes to Cap, I don't think so.
Yeah. I mean, we forget because it's easy to forget, but Sebastian Stan's been in the MCU as long as Chris Evans was. He was in Cap 1. Yeah. He's been around for a long time. He's been in a lot of movies. He may want to bow out, or he may not. I mean, who knows what plans they have for him, but I'm interested to see what direction they take this whole thing in, and who directs and who writes. Mm-hmm. So yeah, excited to see that. Now, on to anime.
Well, actually, while we're talking about Marvel, I'll just do a quick little... I just want to talk about the second episode of What If.
Oh, yes.
Fucking outstanding.
This one
Incredible.
Was...
yeah.
This one was What If T'Challa Became Star-Lord, right?
Yes.
I think that's literally the title.
Did you watch it?
I did not. I'm sorry.
The first one at all?
No, I'm sorry.
No? Well, it is what it is. But I would say... Again, I don't want to like super get into it, but still has some of the same notes. The animation doesn't always work all the time. I think it's now that it's kind of like in space and it's not quite like, you know, pushed into like a realistic world. It looks a little more natural. Mm-hmm. It flows a little better. Same thing. It's hammy. It's cheesy. Like the line reads like they have all these professional actors like doing their like replaying their roles in the show. Yeah. And it honestly sounds like they're recording into like a cardboard box sometimes. Like it doesn't sound great sometimes. But the story that they crafted is fucking unreal. It's really good. It's really, really good.
This would technically be his last time reprising the role as T'Challa before he passed away, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw there was big hoopla.
Like it's the performance isn't like, you know, like it's him, but like it goes for him too. Like the voice acting is just it's just them in front of a mic, just, you know, banging it out, you know, like as per their contract.
Yeah.
But like it's, you know,
but the story's good.
It's a like, you know, it's these episodes feel like they came out of a comic book, which I think is really cool, and I think that's something that they should hold on to. I think that's probably the goal.
Into their roots
a little bit more. Mm-hmm. You know, like the story's not like mind blowing. They're not breaking any new ground, but it was just really fun. The Easter eggs were there, and you know, like it was, like I said, it's cheesy like the first episode, but it's a more fun episode, I think. And you know,
the first episode was Agent Carter becoming Cap, right?
Yes. Oh, yeah, sir. So that was that. So like, and they also made the effort to recreate the first Avenger. They didn't do that in this.
Oh, right. I remember some of your notes about episode 1 is like, why did we try to force the whole story into like a 20 or 30 minute episode, right?
It was too fast. This was it's like there was elements of the first Guardian movie, but after that, it's kind of just it's doing its own little romp, it's setting its own pace and speed for its own story. It's not like locked into like an existing line, like storyline kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So yeah, just really, really fun. I think after seeing this episode, I have way more confidence in the stories to come. Like it was really good. Okay. Like I said, it wasn't breaking any new ground, but like all in all, like it was longer too. I think it was like 2-3 minutes longer. So it was like almost 40 minutes.
Oh wow, that was just kind of lengthy.
And it was just good. I was completely enthralled from beginning to end. I was like, this fucking rules. Like I hope they're more. I hope they continue to be the quality continues to get better.
Yeah.
But this is the one. Like honestly, like and that's the nice thing about What If is like you don't have to watch them in order. I honestly, Dave, like if you get the time to watch it, watch this one first.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's pretty fun.
Strong recommendation on episode 2 of What If.
And
T'Challa becoming Star-Lord.
They keep the cool Easter egg moments out of the fucking thumbnail.
Oh yes, because that's what happened in the first one, right?
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. Yeah.
That's good. I'm glad to hear you're in that. While we're here, did you or did you not end up watching the trailer for Star Wars Visions, the extended one that dropped?
No, I'm going blind into that. Absolutely blind. Yeah.
Well, the 10-second thing on that is that it looks outstanding. As you know, anime fans, you know, they did like a featurette on Star Wars Visions like months ago, just talking about how like Disney approached all these different animation studios, and they were like
introducing the studios.
Yeah, and they were like, "Are you kidding? Like, we get to do a Star Wars story?"
Yeah.
And it's like this dream come true for all these animators, right? And you know, I haven't heard much behind the scenes about, like, you know, whether it was difficult or if there were any issues in production or who knows what. Sometimes there's a lot of inside baseball stuff that follows anime around.
Sure.
Vis-a-vis Mappa and shit like that. But I've heard nothing as far as that stuff goes, and all I will say is that, like, it looks like it's really going to shape up to be something special. So I never would have thought, you know, like in that acquisition when Disney acquired Lucasfilm, I think everybody knew that Disney was going to start turning on the money printer.
Yep.
And figuring shit out. But like some of these things that they've done, like The Mandalorian and this is like kind of what you hope for when you sell your studio to. Or when you sell your IP to a studio, right? Is you want them to explore and build and do fun artistic projects that hopefully don't like sully, you know, the original works. And I think something like a Star Wars anime is like, and an anthology at that is like one of the funner things you could dream up for that whole universe.
It's the perfect litmus test for Disney.
Yeah,
is to let this just release this upon the world. And just let our subset of the internet and media viewing and just like, you know, encroach. Like it's, you know, it's like you said, like it's one of the most obvious things to do. I remember years and years ago, there was a video, someone they recreated like an X-Wing versus a TIE fighter anime video. It was done by one guy, took him like years, put it up, and this was like early days of Twitter. Actually, I remember finding it, and Disney, or I think Lucasfilm, they hadn't been purchased yet, I believe, and they were like, "Oh, really cool video," and like, love to see the ingenuity, but like, it's, you got to take this off. Like, we didn't approve this. Like,
a no.
But like, you can still find it on YouTube. Actually, I'll see if I can find it and I'll send it to you. But it was, I remember watching that and being like, holy fuck, like we should have 10 of these shows. You know, like it's. That's been the good thing about the Disney acquiring them, is like the fun little stuff has come along, you know, and it's going to continue to come along. Like this is their way of like seeing which studio they clicked with the best, see what episode clicks with the audience is the best, and then they greenlight a season. I guarantee that's going to happen.
Yeah, and I'm down. You know, I'm really excited to blitz through that stuff and just see what they come up with. Like you said, they're really throwing stuff at the wall here, and I love to see it. You love to see it. As someone I know says. Okay, so let's talk about Sonny Boy.
Sonny Boy.
You're on episode 2?
I finished episode 2, yeah.
Okay, and I finished up to episode 4.
Okay.
You know, I won't talk spoilers. We could probably talk spoilers for up to episode 2, if you want. I think, like, you know, we'll wait till we both get caught up, and then we can have like weekly discussions about it.
I think so, yeah, going forward.
But what I will say is, oh my god, my do you hear this? My desk, my desk, my stand desk. My cat hit the button and it just started rising. Oh, that was terrifying. I thought either I was sinking or the desk was rising. That was graceful. So, what I'll say is, you know, they haven't lost me. Everything that we felt about the pilot has held true for me.
Okay.
You know, it's going in an interesting direction, but I think like two things really stand out to me, and that is the sound design and the art direction. I'm still very interested in the plot and the psychological thriller aspects of the whole thing, but I think that like when I'm watching this show, it feels like I'm watching something special, like a real passion project. I read some stuff about the animators getting like completely free reign to be able to do whatever the hell they want as far as effects go and things like that, and that is like abundantly clear in the 4 episodes that I've watched. I've seen like some of the most beautiful scenes in anime in recent memory anyway, that I'll say that I've seen, like, period. It's very, very creative. It's a complete artsy show, right?
Yeah, it's so funny you say artsy, because like I also agree, you know, going from episode or the pilot into the second episode, by no means is it lost me, but I'm having this unique problem with Funimation right now. And I think I had watched like 2 minutes of the, like, going into the second episode. I was like, oh, like, are they being artsy? and like, you know, there's moments of like them talking to one another, and there's no audio, and then like the sub, like the closed captioning on the subs just wasn't appearing, and they were talking, and like, oh, like, is this like a moment they're presenting to me where like they're talking and like, you know, we're not aware of what's going on, and then the audio is going to kick in later. So like the app is just, and that's not the case. Like they were supposed to be talking. I was supposed to be hearing what they had to say.
Funimation was just like, curveball, bitch.
Yeah, I had bought it. I was like, I thought it was, you know, I'm like, man, this is some like Terrence Malick shit. Like, you know, like this is some out there.
Dude, that would be totally up this show's alley too.
I know.
Like...
So I was like, what's going on? And then, you know, and then it ended up being like, it was just the fucking app was garbage. But by the time I got everything working, I do think there's kind of like a surprisingly jarring lapse of moments between like where the ending of the first episode leads into the beginning of the second. It kind of just throws you into it. And I've tried, like, on my second rewatch of it, I was kind of like, it seemed a little clunky. But I think it kind of goes back to the original point of, I think the show is intentionally doing things like that to keep you on your toes. Like, you are constantly having to, nothing is handed to you in this show at all, which I think is nice for a change of pace. It's nice, but that one of the problems with that is you have to be fully invested in the moments that you are watching it, because this show will not hold your hand. I don't think it ever will.
I agree with that.
So it's anyone that's listening to us, and if you're interested in what we're talking about the show, and it seems to be something you would like, definitely be of sound mind and in the moment. Like, that is one of those shows, so much will blow past you if you're just not in bed. And that's in 2 episodes that I've seen. Like, you're ahead of me. I can only imagine what happens in each episode.
It demands your attention. I'll definitely say that. I mean, you know, this isn't something to like just have on in the background while you like walk around. You know what I mean? Like it you know, pay it its due and watch it with full attention. I won't, you know, spoil anything about plots, but I just wrapped up episode 4, and there's a anime subreddit, literally just called r/anime, and they have weekly discussion threads for Sonny Boy. So I went and I checked out what they were saying about episode 4. And I think like one of the top comments was, I don't know what just happened, but I loved it. And like they really lean into the weirdness in the whole show, and just like really heady, metaphoric, existential, just heavy themes that are like you said, Lord of the Flies, right? Like, it's just so out there, man. I really like it.
Do you know what the closest thing, or do you know what this reminds me of the most? Like,
what?
Clear as day, like fucking obvious, like it's influenced by it in some ways.
What?
It's Neon Genesis.
Oh, which I still haven't watched. That's fun.
Everything about like it's
I definitely see that
shot
actually.
Like a movie. It's shot like a movie, you know, like it's very like quick cuts, and it's like longing looks, and it's scenery shots, and like everything, you know, it's not just about the characters, it's about the world and the mystery. Like, it's, you know, it has, like, I feel like it sounds obvious, but like Lost too. Like, again, I only watched like the first couple episodes, but like the big thing about Lost, what I've read is it was figuring out everything around them. You know, and it was also learning about them and their stories and how they all intertwine. And Sonny Boy is just, I think it's that, you know, like it is a complete package, but there's just so much to dissect, which, you know, we're big nerds, and I think a lot of people that are listening are also big nerds, and they love this kind of shit, you know, like we love a challenge, and I think Sonny Boy is a challenge for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I like to, you know, it's stimulating, and it doesn't make it easy, and it's just a vibe, right? Like, you know, we talked about it last week, and we mentioned it earlier, like the sound design, like they don't use music. They just don't. They use the sound of fans being on and bugs in the forest, and that's quite Neon Genesis and shit like that.
Yes.
But all that stuff, like they're just creating such a tone that really lends itself to some of these like quiet, desperate, kind of sad moments. I don't know. I don't know. It feels like a passion project. I don't know. I could really see myself really getting into this week to week. I think we talked about this before when we saw the pilot last week. We both said like this is a slippery slope, right? Because there's no guarantee that you can like kind of hang out at this level forever, and you need a lot of the times like the reason like a lot of stories are done like with linear storytelling and they would like go a certain way is because that is a much easier environment in which to build like the structure of a narrative.
Yes.
The weirder you get, sometimes the harder these kinds of things are to navigate, and it can really fall apart. To call back to your example, Lost was a just complete house of cards that totally fell apart by the time they had to wrap up, but it had a really, really promising start. So I'm hoping it's not that. I'm pretty high on it 4 episodes in. I think they're up to 6 or maybe 7 as of this week.
I think 6 is this week. Yeah.
So, maybe by this time next week we'll be caught up, or the week after that. But we'll definitely be covering it week to week at some point. I think, depending on how these next few go.
Pretty confident I have full intention to talk about this each week.
Cool.
Yeah.
Fucking Sonny Boy. What else you up to?
Do we do the head-to-head, the Tokyo Revengers to Eternity talk? Or
are you caught up on both? Because didn't To Your Eternity just come out today?
Yeah, I made a point of
that is so
catching
fun.
it.
So did I. That's
great.
Okay, let's get angry first.
Yeah.
Wait, which one? I wonder if we're thinking about the same thing.
It's Tokyo Revengers.
Yeah, okay. My notes is just Tokyo Revengers : this shit is insulting.
It's like it hasn't. They're going like $120 on the highway right now. They haven't gone off into the into the skid yet, but like they are like inching closer and closer. I don't know what the actual fuck is going on right now. This is it's not a train wreck, but it's kind of like
the wheels are falling off.
It's crazy. Like I actually cannot believe what we're watching right now. Like this is one of the most like hype is such a dangerous thing. And you said earlier, it's like there's so many things in anime that are double-edged swords, right? Like it pays off, in one way or another, but the show has been playing it pretty safe, up to this point, and this moment was just such a hype moment. It's not like there was a lot on the line, you know what I mean? Like in the grand scheme, I guess there kind of is, like between the two timelines, but like I cannot believe this is like lackluster as it is,
yeah, it's tough.
I don't even know where to start. I honestly don't know where to start with this.
It's just tough because this show was never it never held like this crazy level of high esteem that like some of these others, and I don't mean that in a critical mean way. I just mean like I think a big part of the value proposition of this show and the allure of the show that we've talked about on this podcast has been that this is like a fun, easy watch, and it's like different and kind of creative and engaging, and it's like not something that we would normally check out, but it's been fun to check out. So as long as it's fun, you continue checking it out. And they really put a lot of the weight behind this punch of the Bloody Halloween arc, and it just really has not landed
at all.
It's been not bad, or I mean, it's been not good. It's like I think it's
not offensive, but like
no. I mean, I wrote it was insulting because I was just...
It's a little insulting, yeah.
No. But I'm being just a dick about it. I just remember being mad. I was like mad at, okay, so let's just like get into it. It's episode 20 and we're going to talk spoilers. That's your warning.
Yeah.
So just the way the episode ends, like, we both were like, where is Baji? He finally shows up. It's fine. And then like the way he shows up and this whole like him cutting through people, and he like reveals his true colors, and there's this
but then doesn't show him cutting through people.
Yeah,
it was very like yes, he like flicked his pipe and 50 men dropped.
It's one of those things that is kind of it really plagued the original Berserk anime, and it's actually, to be fair, most animes do this at some points.
Sure,
it's when you do this it's like a colored panel that you pan over. And like you add like action lines, and you like put a good soundtrack of characters making sounds behind it, dude, I'm not exaggerating. The Berserk 90s anime might have had 10 of those every episode.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, like it was a budget thing apparently. But yeah, they did that in this episode, and then there's this one shot of Takemichi running from behind, and his ass and legs look like, it's like, what's going on here? This is a different show. I think in these last 2 episodes, the budget, like the animation quality has taken a very rough hit. We're no strangers to that. We covered Attack on Titan season 4 and all that other shit, and I think we both agree, as many people do, it's usually not due to a lack of talent. It's usually time and budget. That's one thing that's pretty obvious. So it's just that
it's going to continue. Like we'll say that again. It's
just that that's not what the show needed, right? They needed to stick the landing, and I feel like they haven't.
No,
is that fair?
No, I actually don't know where they're going with this. Like they're setting up this. Like Takemichi fails. It's the first time he's kind of failed so far in his mission. He's been successful. Like like hear me out. Like he's overall has succeeded in some ways. Like everyone's like working against him, or no one believes in him, and he has like these small victories, and he's gotten the confidence. It's just the character is so like half deflated. Like he gets a little more into him, a little more air into him, then it deflates a little more. Like it's just he has no standing power in like his surroundings. Yeah, so I understand how like he can actually stop anything, and this episode kind of shows that he is powerless, and no matter how hard you try, like you just can't succeed in certain instances. So like that is kind of interesting, and I know what they're going for, but like I don't know. And like the Kazaki thing showing up, like we knew that was going to happen. Like he was like, it was either, he was never going to show up, or he was, going to get his ass kicked, and he kind of proved his innocence and all that. But like, I don't know. It's Dabachi go down like that, and Kazutora would get up and just kill him, and blah, blah, like. I don't know.
They downplay the stab at first, like, oh, he's fine, and then he collapses afterwards for literal dramatic effect and also cliffhanger. Like it was just so transparent. It's like, I know what you're doing, and it's dumb.
Yeah.
Like, I think I was just irritated by, like, okay, so we get another cliffhanger because you chose to do this thing that didn't make sense. Like, it was just so blatantly manipulative. And I was like, I don't know if this is how the manga was or what, but that's stupid. And, like, shows do this kind of stuff all the time, right? I'm not going to, like, sit here and be like, oh, Attack on Titan's never intentionally put a cliffhanger in.
No,
like, they did that all the time, but like it just like when the ground you're standing on is so, it's like quicksand, and like you're not like satisfied with the moments between cliffhangers, and then you just throw more in. It's not a great feeling, right? It's like I always talk about, or we always talk about, like when the audience loses their sense of disbelief. They have to be willing to follow you. They have to want to watch the next episode. If you just frustrate them, then they're not gonna. And I'll watch, but it's just like,
well, because we're so close to the end.
Yeah.
But, like if this kind of thing was going on at like episode 10, I would probably have backed out.
Yeah. They had a stronger start than they're currently doing right now. It's funny too. I just saw like a recent, and these stats are kind of meaningless just because of the nature of manga and anime. As of late, the whole industry is sort of exploding. But one of these stats I saw is like Tokyo Revengers surpasses like some very specific sales period of Attack on Titan. It's like, oh, they beat Attack on Titan in this like sales metric for like how long it took them to hit a certain amount of issues circulated, because the manga is apparently extremely popular. And I know that people love it. It's just like, yeah, but
there's a lot to love though. That's the thing, and that's why this is frustrating. This is why we're upset, is because there is a lot to love here, and we do love a lot of it. But this is kind of just like an out of nowhere letdown.
Yeah, totally. You just don't anticipate them to miss here, because this is like what you figure like the moment is, right?
Yeah.
You let us, you gave us all this foreshadowing and all this build up, and like it's just sort of a deflating experience for you to fuck it up. So yeah, we'll see. We're obviously going to keep watching. We'll kick out the rest of the season here and see how it goes. But yeah, to be determined on that. Quick industry news injection, a little sprinkle in between these two animes. Before we talk about To Your Eternity, the obvious news that broke over the last couple of days was that Attack on Titan Season 4 Part 2 has been given a loose release date of January 2022.
Let's fucking go.
Let's go, man. So we're very excited. Obviously,
12 episodes.
Yeah.
Apparently, what people are saying.
Shorter than the 16 that we got
16,
originally. Yeah. From what I've heard, that seems like ample amount of time to wrap up what they need to wrap up.
This is going to be action. It's going to be go, go, go. I think they can get a lot done in 12 episodes.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you think about Season 3, Part 1 and 2, just the pace they set at the end of Season 3 was pretty impressive. They knew how to structure it properly. And I feel like, Season 4 is quite a bit of setup. Like, there is some really exciting action as well. But, a lot of moving the chess pieces around the board for, kind of a final conflict and hopefully a fun resolution. I think it will be trickier avoiding spoilers. I think we're going to have to take a lot of precautionary measures. Because if you're listening to this, you should know, we're not manga readers at all, or for Attack on Titan, or for anything else for that matter. So we're going in pretty blind. We know that the reception to the manga ending was a little bit mixed and controversial, but so is life. So
Sure.
We'll just have to see how we feel about it when we get there. With any luck, we'll get there unspoiled. If not, that's okay. That's life.
That's all I can do.
Yeah.
That's all I can do.
But we'll probably, we haven't talked about details, but I think it's probably safe to say we'll be covering this in some capacity, probably similar to how we did Part 1. So,
no doubt.
So stay tuned for that. I'm very excited. It's because Attack on Titan's been a big journey for the two of us. Mm-hmm. And it'll be really fun to wrap up one of our favorite series over the podcast.
Yes, sir.
So I'm looking forward to that. Okay, To Your Eternity, episode 19.
Thank fucking God this is over.
So you didn't love this arc, huh?
Didn't love it. It's I was listening back to the podcast this week, and I stand by what I say, confidently. Mm-hmm. My intention was never to hammer on Tanari, but I stand by the point of not enough time was used for this arc. I think, again, I don't know what we're getting into next. Obviously, there's not too much time left. I don't know if it's
I don't know what
kind
the
of
original...
if it's cleanup or if it's potentially setting something up next, and we're kind of cliffhanger moment. But I think 2 more episodes on the island would have maybe the experience would have been a little more tighter, I think.
Yeah.
And I think I would have had a little more appreciation for it. I'm going to go against my original statement. I think whenever I do rewatch To Your Eternity, probably in preparation for season 2, which I hope there is, I'm not going to skip this arc. I'm going to have to give it a fresh set of eyes on it at this time. But in the first viewing, didn't love it. There was definitely moments in it that I enjoyed, but I think as a whole it was pretty loose, and this show has just not been that so far. So for me, I just found it to be a little jarring, but I think it's a good wrap up of the arc.
Yeah, I agree with that. So spoiler warning, episode 19, To Your Eternity, obviously. I don't even know if we should warn people anymore at this point. But anyway, so especially on the end there, I agree with you. I think in a good way, they kind of subverted my expectations with how the ending of this arc was going to go. We spoke last week in what you're talking about, what you're referencing about being a little critical of this arc, which I think is fair, was, they can't, well, one thing we agreed on is you can't keep running the same gag, right? Mm-hmm. You can't just introduce us to more characters, kill them, and then hope that it resonates every single time. And I think that this arc is a good example of you can't just do the same thing over and over again and have it constantly hit. I agree with you that more time probably would have benefited the show and probably would have helped how this whole thing kind of shook out, especially the death of all these supporting characters. That said, I think I'm happy with how they chose to end it. I'm happy that they didn't make the obvious. My prediction was like Tanari is gonna like sacrifice herself, and maybe like in death she will like redeem her like character qualities. So that did not happen, but I'm glad that it wasn't that predictable.
I think the choice of her
Staying on the island
and being aware of her, it's to come across people who are truly introspective who can like take a step back and like assess what they are doing, what they have done in real life is hard. It's not everyone can kind of just be like, maybe I need to ease up on this, like some.
If real people were half as introspective as anime characters,
yeah, exactly. But I think it was a good choice on the part of the character and in the writing to her, like maybe like and I think the most potent, and I said this last week, the best line out of Tanari's mouth was when she just comes to terms with the fact of I think this island just poisoned me, and I'm a product of this island, and which is fair, and like that is one of the major points of this arc that I do like, that sometimes like you are born into something and there's not much you can do about it. So for her to want to make a change, I think that's like a really good character trait, and like to better oneself in that way. I'm glad. I think I think the death would have been an easy way out for her character and the way she treated people around them.
Agreed.
I think this is like a good atonement for her character. So like I said, like it's not my favorite arc, but I think the way they ended it with the people the leftovers of the incident, I think is a good way of going forward narrative wise. I did like it. So.
I agree with that. I'm not crazy about the zombie plot device, but I feel that way kind of in general. But I understand.
There's a murder island, right? Like, what are they going to do with all the bodies? Like, like it's
fair enough, right?
It's a society of this, and so again, I don't love the zombie thing either, but it was written in, and it was sitting there, and it had a reason to be there, which is why I can look past it. Like narrative wise, I hate zombie stuff.
Yeah.
But I think this was a good avenue for the story to take.
That's a good point. I think my thoughts are pretty close. I liked the ending the most. Not because like I'm happy, like I'm just so happy it's over kind of thing. Like just because I thought, I don't know if they tied it in a bow, and this isn't like the best arc. I think maybe the best arc might be like the Gugu arc and ending. Yeah. So far anyway, but I did not expect Tanari to have that moment of growth and to stay behind. I think that was like a really cool choice for them to make. I think also like my favorite moment out of the whole episode was Fushi deciding to leave Hayase in the middle of the sea. Yeah. Bound, kind of helpless, and to just not be tricked into anything, to show a moment of growth, and to be frankly kind of human about it. Yeah. In his, I don't want to say pettiness, but in his anger. Just to say, I hate you. Yeah. I don't care if you live or, like, he was feeling, rightly or wrongly, like that was like a very human moment. You know what I mean? Like he went through some shit. He decided not to kill her when he had the opportunity. But instead he does this. The only part of that so I loved that. I really did. The only part that I may not love, and I'm really, I hope I'm wrong here, but I really don't want to get like a Hayase on steroids because she's made a deal of some kind with the Knockers in 5 episodes.
The problem is they kind of set something up.
Exactly, and the moment they did that,
it's going. Yeah,
I was like, give me a fucking break with this. Like,
yeah, I am done with Hayase for sure.
She was a very effective antagonist while she's been around, but like it's we've talked about in the My Hero episode that we just did, like Dobby and the use of antagonists and how to use people sparingly and how to use them effectively, right? If you bring her back in a few episodes and she's just her on steroids and she's like partnered up with the Knockers, like I'm gonna see that shit coming a mile away and I'm not gonna be happy.
It would be very like uncharacteristic of the show so far.
It would be. So
I would be shocked. Like if they did do that, I would hope it's because like the knockers, they make the point of like the knockers need to evolve as well, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So like for them to take a moment of sentience, sentience, they have to evolve. Maybe like there can be like a symbiote situation, where like there's communication, and I think that
I don't want that.
No, but the thing is, like they really set up, because this is the second time Hayase's been marooned. Like she was technically marooned before by Fushi, and now it's been done a second time with like the stakes significantly higher. Like there was conversation between the two, and feelings were left out, and she professed her love, which also we last week we completed like the rape scene. Yeah. Was like, we completely glossed over that last week from 2 episodes, or 3 episodes ago.
Three at this point. Yeah.
Creepy is all get out.
Just between her professing her love but also murdering people mercilessly, I think she's just unhinged, right? She's fucking crazy. She's a villain.
The thing I am curious of, and it's been in the back of my mind, is I wonder. And this is out there. Like this, this might be. This might gross some people out listening, but like, if she was impregnated somehow,
right?
I wonder if maybe that is a connection between her and the knockers now. Maybe they sense that.
Interesting. That was yeah.
It's like that was the thing too. It was like, oh, maybe like she loves him so much, she wants to be a part of his immortality. Maybe that's like creating a child that has like connection to Fushi, but like. Because we don't. He's a mystery too, right? We don't really know what and how his body works.
It's a human form, though. Yeah.
Like he takes on traits of the human, but at the end of the day, he's not. It's interesting. So,
you raise a good point. That was exactly what I was thinking during that like scene that they allure to. I was like, well, maybe she's trying to get his quote like life essence. Yeah. Like the licking and stuff was pretty weird, but then we see her disrobe, and like that's only going in one direction, you know what I mean? He's unconscious. I think that part was pretty clear. So I think that's like a fair theory, right? That maybe she was trying to literally like extract like in one way, you know what I mean? It's kind of gross, but if she was impregnated by that, you got to wonder how that goes. I'll counter theory you though, very briefly. And the problem is, I think that if I'm right, we may never know. But just hear me out. There's two. Question. Yeah, but there's 2 moments in this scene or in this episode that the camera intentionally does something off screen, and the show like has shown us some pretty horrific things, right? Like Gugu dying and all this stuff. Fushi, like the way all that was done, it's pretty straightforward. They don't leave a lot to your imagination. But 2 things happen this episode that they intentionally do off screen. The first is Tonari picking up a sword and she's gonna go kill her friends, and Fushi's like, no, I got it.
Yeah, come on.
And
take a break.
So we know that he's the one that has to put these people out of their misery, and we don't see that, but it's heavily implied, right? And the second is the end of the episode, and we don't see it, but we see the knocker get on the ship or the boat, and it attacks Hayase off screen, and we hear her scream. Now you could say like the audience has to put 2 and 2 together in both scenarios, and both things happen off screen, but they're heavily implied, and you should just let it be. The obvious counter to that is like, well, it could easily be a misdirect. That's a very anime thing. Maybe it attacks her, she screams, but she's been shown to be incredibly crafty and capable herself. So who knows? Maybe she gets her way out of it, and then we go down the road of like you said, like a symbiotic relationship between the 2 of them. So
I think that would be like, if it does happen, like if that is what ends up happening, I wouldn't bat an eye at that. I wouldn't be upset about that. I think that could be a new, unique way to reuse a villain. Like there's 2 people potentially behind the wheel. No, I'm also like the best way to end the episode was just Fushi having a smile, being back on the mainland, and like being back in the world, and like what he kind of knows, You know, like he knows that there's like shitty people out there, and also too the way the Man in Black asked him like, so like how was Janata Island, and it's like you fucking dick. Like
I really like that moment because like again to the Man in Black, he doesn't give a fuck, right? He's like so how do we feel? Like did you learn anything? Jesus,
learned a lot, and that's the thing too. Like, you know, like it's just because like. It doesn't matter whether someone likes or dislikes this arc. The element of the show is there was Fushi had life experience and there was character, or there was like the human experience growth was there.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter how good or bad the experience is, and that's kind of like the way the show kind of transcends a little bit, which I that's why we love this show. Is he walked away with something that he didn't have before.
Yeah.
And so how it happened and what happened doesn't matter. He walks away with something. It's the human experience, you know? And so it's, I don't know, at the end of the day, this arc it's moot. It doesn't fucking matter. You know, it was a life lesson. So I think that's where they succeed.
Exactly. There's this really great feeling I get every time Fushi moves on. You know what I mean? Like there's like they always hit it really well. We don't talk about it a lot, but the soundtrack of the show is pretty great. They really know when to go into strings and like really when to do the epic music. Like they don't overuse that shit.
Sure.
And there's this great shot of him, you know, the inner monologuing and saying like, but you know, when I got on the island, I was counting the days and I couldn't wait to get away, and all that stuff. But now, you know, I feel better, and like he's just sort of reflecting on everything, and then that's when the Man in Black asks him something. But yeah, that was really, really cool. The way that they wrapped up, and I'm excited to see like kind of where he goes now, where he goes next, and sort of what happens. I will say to you and anybody else listening, I've decided to just stop watching the stingers because there are stingers and they give way too much away.
Oh really? Yeah, I'm not one to end pretty much anything. Yeah. I'm pretty quick with the pause at the end of the episode.
Yeah, I always mess around because I don't want to miss a post credit, and then sometimes like there's a stinger, maybe I'll watch it. But yeah, a few weeks back I was like, okay, that's not enough because they gave away like the zombie thing in one of the stingers, and I was like, really?
Oh, okay.
Not stoked about that. So anyway, that was.
Do you think if it hadn't been spoiled, do you think you would have in the moment appreciated more, or like taking it better? Do you think you would have been more like, do you think it was better for you to have it spoiled versus like not?
Nah, like most things, I wish I had experienced it in the moment. Sure. You know, like I got to sit there like for a week before I saw it being like, I fucking hate zombies, man. It's so predictable. You know what I mean? But who knows, maybe it would have felt differently. Like that's, you know, I'm glad we agreed about Tokyo Revengers, because part of me was like, man, did I just watch this in a bad mood? Like, you know, like sometimes, you know, you just want to watch things and like let your gut reaction hit you, and you know what I mean, and see how it registers. But yeah, when you get a spoiler like that in a stinger, you get to develop, you know, all these biases before you even get to see how they originally meant for you to experience it, and that's shitty.
Yeah.
So, you know, whatever. I watched a movie.
Oh, okay.
Like I told you, I'm trying to watch one a week. I think I will, you know, maybe adhere to that more than not. I'm sure I'll miss some weeks and whatnot, but I'm doing my best. Moneyball.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, it was. I'm not gonna.
Have you never seen it?
No, I had not. So a big part of like what I'm trying to do is big movies that I've missed. Like I've got lots of indies in this list too.
Sure.
But like a lot of them is like just movies that I've somehow missed. Right? Everybody's got it. Everyone's got like a franchise or like tentpole movies or directors or whatever you want to call it that like they just have somehow missed. Like next week, like this week I'm gonna try and watch Usual Suspects because I've never seen that. But this week I did Moneyball. So very quickly, I'll just say great direction, solid soundtrack, very solid performance by Brad Pitt and Jonah Hill. Jonah Hill in particular is so different in this movie than anything I've ever seen him in, and I know that this was like a big thing for him. Like it was one of the first dramatic roles he had in like a huge movie like this. It's, you know, we've talked about good storytelling and how it can make something that's not appealing to you become very, very interesting. That's Moneyball to me. I've never watched a full baseball game in my life. I don't think I will after this.
Sure.
Unless like it's in person and there's beer.
It's a hard watch. It's a hard watch.
Yeah.
It's one of those sports that is, in my experience, being there is the definitive way to enjoy it.
That's what I've heard. So I'm not knocking at baseball fans. I've heard like the stadium experience is it's an event, right?
Yeah, it's an all-day thing.
Yeah. So, with that in mind, they made me interested in baseball and in all that shit. It's almost similar in a way because it's just the story is so well crafted. It's almost similar to The Last Dance and the Formula One Drive to Survive docuseries, both on Netflix, in that they are things that are completely alien to me, and they're both made very, very interesting by just really effective storytelling and direction and editing. So yeah, big shouts to Moneyball. I never thought I would be into something like that, but I was. It was a very effective movie.
Yes,
I will say that. So it is absolutely worth your time if you're just into just seeing how someone can make you care about a thing you don't care about. I'll also say, just on the topic, like we've talked about people that are just like obsessed with greatness, like the idea of just being the best at something. Like this is a weird quote to pull out, but bear with me. John Mayer said once. Yeah, here we go. Okay. Now, as John Mayer once said, he goes, I don't like football, but I'll always watch Tom Brady just because I like greatness, which is both ludicrous but also interesting.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I kind of get what he's saying. Like the fact that he just won another Super Bowl after leaving the Patriots, and the fact that I somehow know that because it has penetrated so deeply into the zeitgeist that it's unavoidable.
Yeah.
I kind of get that. And I understand just being so obsessed about something that it drives you insane. And that's Brad Pitt in Moneyball. He's so invested in the fucking game that he doesn't watch it. Like, that's obscene, right? That's like it's an all-encompassing like level of passion, and I relate to that. So I don't know. I thought that was pretty interesting. So that was my movie watch of the week. Worth your time.
Great movie.
Very much so.
Well, I got a perfect transition into this because this is nothing new. It's just Dave. I have to take a little more time and just I got to blow some more smoke up Haikyuu's ass. Leanna and I have never ever been like watching a show. Well, that's not true, but like I think this is the first one that came to like anime. Like there's moments where like you're like excited and you're loud and you're like, oh, it's happening. But like we were watching. So we just finished up the second season of Haikyuu. Also, I found out there's only 4 seasons on Crunchyroll. Crunchyroll does that thing where it says like there's a season 5 and a season 6, and it's actually just like one movie, or it's like a bunch of like random things, and so it's like fuck. Okay, so I know we're only working with 4 seasons here. We were like locked. Probably one of the greatest episodes of anime I have ever seen was like leading up to the finale of season 2 of Haikyuu. Like it's funny. Like Leanna and I were talking about this today. It's like it's interesting because when you think about it, the whole show is kind of technically a tournament arc because like by like way of like they're playing sports. Like there's direct competition, like 1-to-1. Like. There's like seasons, there's games, like it's constant battle between like other opposing teams and players. Like it's fucking obvious when you think about it, but it's a really interesting way. I think that's why it works so well as an anime and a manga, the unique way to tell this story. And then the other thing we had kind of like noticed is, when you watch an anime, it has like the world setting, it has the lore, it has like the history, and like there's just so many moving parts to like make one big picture, right? It's a package. What Haikyuu can exclusively do with just characters and personalities and animation, and it can soar above all these other tremendous anime. Like it is all about the characters. Like, you know, it looks visually, it's beautiful. Like there's a world, like it's realistic. There's like the gymnasium and the arenas and the city streets and their hangouts, like the clubhouse. It's like, it's all there, but like the show is all about the characters. And like, you know, it's like the character gets growth and development, and like the team clicks together. Like, we have just been absolutely jacked watching this show. It is so fucking good. And it is now going to be like, it's my de facto referral to anyone that wants to watch an anime. It's the easiest way to get into anime.
This is obscene.
Dave, it's obscene. It's unreal how much we love this show. Like, you know, like Corinne watched an episode with us. She just kind of came into the room and, you know,
keep up with the subtitles and everything.
Oh yeah. She's quick.
I mean,
she's 9 years old. Like,
I was gonna say, I'm not calling your daughter stupid.
No, but even then, like sometimes like anime moves fast too, especially, you know.
Well, it's a lot to focus on. Like, just, you know, all the action on the screen sometimes, even for me, and then like with the subtitles, you know.
But you know what? So this is such a funny story. I'm not gonna get into the minutia of the joke that was told, but there was like a scene. It was so funny. Like, there was just like a scene. You know how like in anime, like a joke is made and then a character like enters the screen and then two more enter the screen. It's all like, you know, it's funny and it's like over the top and all that.
Yep.
And like a lot of stuff was like flashing through the screen, and like the joke that she grabbed that she thought was the funniest out of that was like the most like, what are you, like 15? Like like I was like the very mature, like it was an out there joke. And she was like laughing, and she was like the three of us were like hooting and hollering on the couch. We were laughing so hard. But yeah, cute. It's just, yeah, it was like just a really, and she's like, you know, before bed, she's like, can we like watch like an episode of like Haikyuu there before you go to bed?
Has she watched other anime?
She like, you know, she's in love with Pokemon.
Of course, yeah.
So she's watched all those. And growing up, I always liked to show, it was on YTV called Card Captor Sakura.
Oh yes, we've talked about that.
Do you remember that?
Yep.
So I showed that to her one time, and she just like sucked all that in. She just like wanted to watch more and more. And then they did like a sequel series like a couple years ago, like, you know, years after the fact. So, you know, she was able to catch up on all the stuff. We watched all the movies. So like she has, and like you can only really watch it in subs. Like I think the first season on Netflix, like it's dubbed, but like all the stuff on Crunchyroll, the movies and all that, none of that it's all subs. And she kept up with it, you know, like she knew what was going on. She was telling, like, you know, I'd be you know, because it was like a beginning of summer watch for her. You know, I'd come home from work, and she was like, well, so like this happened and da-da-da-da-da, and we're watching the movie, and I'm like, well, who's this? She goes, well, okay, so like 4 episodes ago, like this happened, and she was like explaining it back to me, and I was like, fuck, like you're just like a small version of me. It was very fun connection we have with that, But her jumping into Haikyuu, she's following it, she's loving it. She's like, if we were in the car home, she was like, yeah, like there's probably like 10 seasons of this, right? And I'm like, well, there's 4. She goes, well, you're gonna have to tell me what happens, because like I don't want to be out of the loop.
That's adorable.
And it's like, it's a very like, you know, it's a great show for kids, you know, like it's not.
I definitely get that vibe.
It's not kiddie by any means, but it's not. It kind of it foregoes a lot of the anime isms, like the mature anime isms.
Yeah,
there's very like minuscule
weeb stuff we don't like.
Very little amounts of that, and like when they do that, it's not even on like the sexual spectrum. It's just it's like cute and funny. Like it's just like that, you know, they adore like the manager of the team is a girl. Like one of their fellow classmates, and there's 2 characters specifically that are just like, you know, not obsessed, but like they not even worship her. They just like, you know, like they're her protector and all that. And it's very positive. It's a very good show. Like I said, Haikyuu, my goal this week is just to get people into it. Anyone that's listening, if you haven't, check it out. Dave, I really hope at the very least you try.
I promise I will eventually.
Yeah,
I gotta get there.
It's very, very good. There's so much going on right now and so much to watch, but it's yeah, we're Haikyuu, absolutely loving it.
Haikyuu. I'm glad to hear that the whole family is enjoying it. That's very fun. You know, like I will definitely get to it. I think right now, and I don't have a lot to say on the subject because I've only watched a couple more episodes. But like, I'm currently conducting my really out there experiment of JoJo. So once that's off my plate, that's Haikyuu is probably next. But JoJo, I just put out a clip on our Instagram about JoJo and just about how it's preposterous and obscene, and I stand by it and everything I said, and I've seen a little bit more, and it's all still valid. So and that's not even like a criticism. Like, I want to reiterate that I think I'll feel differently when I get to one of the parts that is like super acclaimed by all the fans, but I'm also pretty steadfast in wanting to watch this in order, even though different parts are different members of the family. It would just feel weird to me to skip like several parts. So I want to like make my way through it and like take my time, but it is such a weird like vibe and mood that it like I kind of have to be. It's like easy watching, but also like I don't know if there's been an episode yet where I haven't like just raised my arms alone in my living room being like, what is going on? Like that is still absolutely the vibe. I'm still in part 1, so
wow. How many episodes in, like, does it look per season? Is it like 12 or is it 24?
Part 1 is definitely 20 something, so I don't know if it's like that every single time. If it is
20-minute episodes, or are they like
20,
closer
20.
to 30, 40?
20.
Oh, okay. Well,
22 maybe. So yeah, you can whiz by them, but we'll see. I don't know if every part is the exact same length or what the deal is there, but I'm gonna continue watching it. Yeah, nothing major to report. As I wrap up part 1, whenever that ends up happening, I'll let you know where I'm at and if I intend to like continue watching it, or if I do something like completely different. Like actually, this sort of blends into this last thing that I want to talk about briefly, which was I discovered this YouTube channel / podcast. Wonder if you're gonna know it, called Trash Taste.
Oh, that's the is it Giguk there?
Yeah,
and the Anime Man. Yeah, I tried checking that out.
So I didn't know, like you knew Giguk.
Yeah,
and I didn't know the Anime Man or the other guy. It's fine. It's like stupid successful. Like every time, like you wonder about how big this whole space really is. Like the 3 of those hosts each have millions of subscribers each, which explains why that podcast is so successful. But they're like they're, when we say like they're full-time weebs, like they live in Japan. You know what I mean? So they're going for it. But they've been raving and talking about anime all the time. And one of the things that I just watched a quick clip on was they were all raving about Mob Psycho 100, and I was like, what is this show? I've never heard of it. No one's ever mentioned it to me before.
Oh my god, son of a bitch.
So now that they've mentioned it, I think I'll give it a try.
You fuck.
Nah, I'm kidding. But they did go on like this ridiculous tangent about the thing, and I was like, well, maybe post JoJo, like if because the funny thing is they all love it. They all love JoJo too. So who knows, right?
Mob Psycho is not JoJo. Like I said, I have not watched JoJo, but I'm pretty confident they're apples and oranges, I think.
Oh, I agree with that. I just they were just talking about anime in general and the stuff that really sticks out, and I think that they were talking about the critical reception to One Punch Man, but how holistically, in their opinion, Mob Psycho is better in every way. I was like, oh, that's an interesting take. I never finished season 2 of One Punch Man, but it's just an interesting take. So anyway, I know Mob Psycho is like very highly rated, so I think maybe that might be the next one. But what a hard life I lead, right? I got to get through JoJo, and then I make time for Haikyuu and Mob Psycho.
So much. There's so much out there, and it's a good problem to
have. Golden age of storytelling, I think, especially in the TV format.
And anime too. It's just it has. It's nice because it's always had its space kind of carved out, and it's not like it's not like a new thing. It's just people are like playing catch up. So it's nice to have already been on the ground floor for like kind of a long time. So it's easier to traverse a lot of the stuff. Like being a new anime fan right now, I feel like would be a very daunting task. You know, not so much maybe like 3 years ago, probably more so, but like now there's so much stuff that you can just like as your first one to grab onto. Attack on Titan being the big one, My Hero, Dragon Ball. Like there's heavy hitters out there, but like if there's anything this year has shown me is, I think the general masses need to watch more of the Sonny Boys, the To Your Eternities, the Odd Taxis. Like there is stuff out there that is just, it's all about the story, and like everything around it is kind of goes along with the flow, and it's just what a fucking tremendous time to be an anime fan.
Yeah, I mean those stories that you mentioned, those animes that you mentioned, every single one of them. I haven't seen a couple, but To Your Eternity, Sonny Boy, like just those two. Attack on Titan, obviously, like those shows and their pilots justify the existence of the whole medium. Like you watch 20 minutes of any of those things and you're like, oh, I understand. I understand why this is like a drawn art form, why these aren't TV shows. I understand like the allure of the whole medium and how like this story is suited to doing it this way. That's exactly how I felt. And it's funny, like, you have something kind of special on your hands when you feel that way, and that's how I felt with Attack on Titan and Sonny Boy, and definitely To Your Eternity. So yeah, I agree. It's there's a lot of really good stuff out there right now. If the only problem is not knowing what to watch, I think that's a good problem to have.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that does it for me this week.
Yeah, it's
you about good?
I am good.
Okay, awesome. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you're still here. If this is your first time listening to the post show, as we mentioned previously, we're also covering My Hero Academia Season 5, which usually we do week to week, and it drops a couple days before the post show does. So if you haven't, check that out, and feel free to like, comment, subscribe, follow, support the podcast in whatever way you like on whatever social media platform that you like. We're pretty much everywhere at this point. And thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.
Cheers.